Hi everyone, it's Liam here from Rating the Races. Got to start with a little bit of a plug here. Hopefully you are following my videos and keeping up with them. We've just had a lovely Killybegs Warrior winning at 25 to 1. Obviously we had Desert Hero win at 25 to 1 at Royal Ascot. Yes, we've had losers, but when you get a 25 to 1 winner, I always do mine level stakes. So that's 24 losers and then you make a profit and on a 25 to 1 shot. I haven't had 24 losers. I had classic last week at nines. I might go 6 or 7 sometimes without a winner, and then you get a 9 to 1, a 10 to 1, a 12 to 1, a 14 to 1 winner. We've had plenty of those, and you're back into profit. So hopefully you are sticking with these videos. You don't have to back them all. Obviously, if you don't back them all and you end up missing the winner, it is frustrating. But hopefully my videos are giving you an idea of the selections I like, why, and you can then use your own judgment as to whether you agree with them or not. So let's get on with some of the racing tomorrow. I'm going to start off talking about the 145 at Ascot. If you're just looking for my selections, there isn't going to be one in this race. Why not? So in this race I like, now watch me say all these names and then not even get the winner. I like Arecibo, Bond Chairman, Call Me Ginger, Harry Brown, King's Lynn, Rarsell, Rohan, Vintage Clarets. Yep, I like all of them for that race tomorrow. Hence why it's not going to be a betting race for me. And as I said, I've just highlighted, what was that, like 8 or 9 of them, and they'll probably all get beat and something else will win it, like Dream Composer. So that's not going to be a betting race, but it's definitely a race I'm going to be watching. There's going to be something in that finishes 4th or 5th. That's probably going to have run a really good race and potentially be dropped in the handicap. So it's a race I will be watching with that in mind going forward. So let's move on to a race that I am going to have a bet in, and it's the 2 o'clock at York. And I looked at this race, and initially I was hoping, I think it was Brunch, I was hoping he was going to be running in it. I thought I'd found a good bet on him. He wasn't declared. Really frustrating. They'd even booked a jockey, or provisionally booked a jockey, and it looked very promising, and then he didn't get declared. So, who do I like in this race? Sorry, I just had an email come through. That's why I started to go slow. Who do I like in this race? Well, last year, this race was actually won by Eileen Doob, with Blue For You in second, Blenheim Boy third, and Isla Kai fourth. Now, one thing I do like to do is I always like to look at also who was favourite for this race. And interestingly, it was Isla Kai. Now, for me, I believe we actually had the right horse last weekend, but it didn't quite work. In Garci, I do think that's one you need to keep in your Nagme. He went off favourite for the Old Newton Cup, got beat, come back last week, got beat again, but I think he would have won. And he was a much bigger price than he went off the year before. Isla Kai is very similar. So Isla Kai went off 2 to 1 last year, and this year he's currently priced at 12s. Now, if we have a look at that race, now bearing in mind, the market suggested that Isla Kai could have beaten those horses off their current marks. So let's have a look at those marks compared to what they are today, or tomorrow, sorry. So Eileen Doob won the race off 90 and will be running off 96, so £6 higher. Blue For You was second off a mark of 93 and will run off 99, so £6 higher. So both of those are £6 higher. The horse back in fourth, Isla Kai, who wasn't beaten that far really, he only lost out late on. He was rated 98 and he's going to be running off 92, so he's £6 lower. So there's actually a £12 pull or swing with Isla Kai, Blue For You and Eileen Doob based on their efforts last year in this race, and based on the Isla Kai that day was favourite. I think that's mental that he's going to be allowed to go off, or I think he'll get supported, the price that he currently is at 12 to 1. Last year, you would have been taking 2 to 1 on this for a horse who's £12 worse off. I really like this angle. I really like this horse. I thought there was a race at Ripon that he could have gone back to. I think he does well at Ripon. Obviously, he won earlier in the year for us. at Ripon. I do think he's well handicapped. They just need to get their fractions right. This is probably an easier race than what he has been running in. Top weight here is 99, blue for you. And his previous races have been, featuring horses that are up to 105 and those that look unexposed and well handicapped, progressive. There's not as many here. And if Isla Kai is allowed a bit of a freebie at the front, I think he'll be very, very interesting, and I think he'll run a really big race. He's drawn in 9. I'm hoping they leave him alone at the front, and if he is left alone, I think he'll go very, very close here. If he settles in second or third, I think that would suit him more. Similar to how Killybegs Warrior has just won. Sit him in just behind the leaders rather than going right to the front. And I think Isla Kai will go really close here at a good price of 12 to 1. The horse isn't out of form. He's fine. He just needs things to go right for him. So, moving on to the next race. Who is it? Now, I've actually left the ratings open for this one because I need to explain why I like this horse with the ratings. So, the horse I like here is Desert Voice. Now, she looks very progressive. So, she's won 2 Class 5 handicaps. And she's actually stepping up to a Class 2 here. And she is a pound out of the weights. But Adam Farragher takes 3 off. So she's in the weights and Adam's claiming 2. Is how you can look at that. I think that's fine. Adam's a good jockey. I thought he was actually unlucky last week on Garcia. He just didn't get out. William Haggas, as we highlighted last week, he doesn't send his horses to races that he doesn't think they can go well in. Obviously, last week he sent the one to Sandown, wasn't it? What was it called? Mystic Pearl, 22 to 1 for the listed race. I think he knows what type of horse he has with his fillies, especially, and he knows whether they can be raised quite significantly in grade. And I think Desert Voice, that performance last time out, this 140.0, I think there's more to come. She's only had the 3 runs. And a reproduction of that, you can see on our ratings, would give her a huge chance. Rage of Bambi has performed once better than that, and In the Shoes once. But they've also had other runs suggesting maybe they were their best runs and maybe they got overrated. Whereas Desert Voice is probably going the right way, and I think she will take all of the beating here. She's currently 100 to 30, but we will look at that again with the prices, just in case there's a bit better prices. We will come back to that one probably in our second video. We'll talk about that one again because there's a few races that haven't been priced up yet, so we'll have to look closer. But if you see this before the second video comes out, you'll know that I'm very keen on Desert Voice. Moving on to the 250 at Newmarket, the third race, and there's a horse that I thought was going to be a Group 1 horse, and he hasn't done it yet, which is very disappointing. And he's even been gelded, which is even more disappointing for obviously for the future. However, if there's going to be a race that he can win, this has to be it, in my opinion. And that horse won here last year on debut in a maiden, beating Bold Act, who's actually progressed quite nicely, and the parent, who's done okay. Bold Act has probably come out the best of these. It was on the Newmarket July course. It was High Bank. Now, I was really, really impressed that day. I thought High Bank beat 2 very smart horses, and he beat them comfortably. And tomorrow he's returning to Newmarket in a handicap, which I'm sure they would have been thinking they were going to be coming back into group races. And he's actually a nice price. He's available at 11 to 1. 12's at William Hill, but 11 to 1 in most places. And I think that's a decent price for him. I think the course obviously suits. We know he'll definitely handle the track. And Godolphin are definitely, their horses are running much better, as we know. Charlie Appleby's in better form than possibly when he ran at Royal Ascot. But if you look before that, some of his runs were actually quite good. Over at Meydan, they were in decent races. And off this mark of 90, what was he now? 96, he dropped £2. He's in against lesser rivals. This has got to be the time for him to really show his hand. If he's going to win a race anytime soon, this should be it. And I'm quite happy with him at 11 to 1. I think he will run a really nice race here. Moving on to the 3:10 at York. There's one that caught my eye in this race, and we obviously highlighted him after he finished 4th in the Skybet Hambleton at York back in, when was that? May. He finished 4th. The race has worked out quite well anyway. And it was Astro King. He travelled beautifully that day, didn't get the run. If he'd got a clear run, he would have won. Now, he went to Royal Ascot on the back of that, and I highlighted him in this tweet. It is just loading, saying that no change on 99 was great for him. I expect him to go really close in the Royal Hunt Cup. He'd finished 2nd and 4th in that race. Now, at the Royal Hunt Cup, at Royal Ascot, he missed the break. He was slowly away. He never got involved. And I just wonder, maybe now that he's 6, maybe he wants a bit further. But one thing we definitely know, the straight mile might not have suited him either, because of how he got behind and then wasn't able to pick up. Whereas this mile and 2 this mile and 2 trip at this track does include a bend. So even if he's behind, I think he'll be able to keep up. And yeah, I think obviously they looked early for Tom Eves because he rides the track quite well. And yeah, if he gets a clear run and does stay the trip, I think he'll go really well. Now, if you took his last race out and he came here having finished eye-catchingly 4th over a mile, he wouldn't be the price that you're able to get. You're able to get a decent price. You can get, we're going to say 16s because there's 2 there that are available at 16s. Astro King at 16s. I think that's a decent price about him, to be honest. And I think he can run well. He'll obviously be arriving late because of the trip, but now he is 6. Hopefully he will get the trip. He is nicely handicapped off 99. He did run well at the track under 4 new connections, and maybe last time he just fell out the stalls and that didn't quite work for him. We're not going to talk about the 330 because there are no current prices, so we will come back to that one. Let's move on to the 4 o'clock at Newmarket, and there are 2 that I've already highlighted for this race. They are both in it, they are both declared. I think they'll both run well. I do prefer one over the other. And they are Bless Him, who are highlighted at 16s, and Cruyff Turn, wherever he is, there he is, when he was 25 to 1. So they are currently, they're a bit short, or one of them's a bit shorter than that now. Bless Him is now only 8s and 9s, and Cruyff Turn is just starting to get a bit of support. So why do I like those 2? Well, first of all, I have... Nope, let's go back here. I made tweets about these 2 horses. Bless Him dropped £1 to 102 after finishing 5th in the Royal Hunt Cup. Nothing wrong with that. Finished strongly. He was 7th in 2022 in the Royal Hunt Cup before winning this Bunbury Cup off a mark of 102. Now, if he'd run off 103 last year, he would have still won. He actually won it by a length and a quarter now, over 7 furlongs, so that's quite a big distance. Yes, Jamie Spencer was riding him that day, and that was probably key. In actual fact, he's running off a £2 higher mark. I still think he would have gone very, very close off a £2 higher mark. Now, Jamie Spencer rode him last year and he knows how to ride him. Callum Shepherd's on board this time, but Callum has ridden him before. He's ridden him 4, 5, 6, I can see 6 times before. So he should know how to ride the horse. He does need to be dropped out the back. He does need to finish strongly. And hopefully Callum will give him a good ride right out the back. It is good to firm, so hopefully they'll go like the clappers at the front and he can run on strongly. He's drawn in 17, which isn't ideal, but if he can get onto one of those rails, I think he will go very, very well. You can see Stalls 13 actually had the 2nd place horse in this race last year in Ropey Guest. The 2nd horse that we highlighted for this race is Cruyff Turn, who isn't up £3 to 94. He's actually going to carry a £6 penalty from 91. So he's running off 97. But that's still interesting because he was 6th in this race last year. When he didn't get the clearest of runs, he was held up. He didn't have a lot of room. He finished 6th. He wasn't beaten that far. And that came off a mark of 100. Well, he's coming here off a mark of 97 and in form, which I think is key. I think sometimes we look at horses and we say, oh, he's very well handicapped because he's dropped £10, but he's not been running well. Whereas Cruyff Turn is the opposite here. He has been running well. He won recently at Ripon, and he's still off a lower mark. So he's definitely going to have a chance here, and I'm not as surprised to see there isn't now starting to be support for him. I think he'll go off less than 20s. I think he'll get a good run through. If he gets a clear run, I think he will go very close as well. So my 2 for that race are Bless Him, who was at 16s. It's up to you whether you want to take him at 8s. And Cruyff Turn, which you can still get at 25 to 1. We will come back to the 405 because there's not enough prices yet. And we will come back to the 455 because there are no prices yet. So they are my selections so far. This is going to be part 1 of the video then. The first one is Isla Kai at 12s. Much better off at the weights with Eileen Doob and Blue For You. Didn't run badly last year when sent off the 2-to-1 favourite. The second one is going to be Desert Voice, but I'll come back on that on the second video. The second selection, therefore, will be Highbank at 11s. He won at this course on debut. He won very impressively. We know he handles the course. It's a slightly easier race than last time. And if he's going to win at any point, this will be it. We like Astro King in the mile and 2 race. He should appreciate the step up and trip now at the age of 6. They obviously stuck to a mile because he'd been running well over a mile. He ran well for 4th on stable debut over the on this track, and didn't get a clear run that day. He is well handicapped. It's all about really whether he stays this trip. And the final 2 in this video, we've already highlighted them. Bless Him at 16s, or now at 8s. Won it last year. He's only £2 higher. And Cruyff Turn, who's £3 lower. So he's actually £5 better off, therefore, with Bless Him. And yet he's double the price, or even more than that. And he wasn't beaten that far last year. So that is part 1 of this video. It'd be nice to have another Cruyff Turn winner at 25s after backing up the 25 to 1 winner that we've just had today. Thanks for listening, and I'll be back later for part 2.